Oh boy. I feel like this is a stat that shouldn't surprise me at all, but for some reason it does. This headline feels like something out of a parody of our political reality. Nikki Haley beats Trump to become first woman ever to win a Republican primary. I know that shouldn't surprise me. It shouldn't surprise me that it was DC, possibly the most progressive, of states, quote unquote. It's a municipality, I think is the term for it, a district. I don't know what the term is for it, but even the Republicans there are woke, so they're willing to vote for a woman. But this is literally the first time ever a woman has managed to get more votes than a man in the primary for the Republican Party. Obviously, it's nowhere near having a competitive, lead by any means in the overall primary. Nikki Haley has literally already lost, but she has said that no matter what happens, and no matter how mathematically impossible it is for her to win, she will not drop her campaign. Effectively translated to, she is going to hold on to that buffalo and stab it and bleed it for everything she can before she gets shaken off. So, that's good for us. This is not the time to think, oh, we can attack Biden right now or something. This is the time to think, shit, Trump's getting attacked by some of his own. There's actually a little bit of pushback. Now is the time to go harder than ever against Trump and try to pull these people over into being at least open to voting for Biden in November. That's going to be a process to moving people over. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be like you just talk to them and they change their vote just out of nowhere. It's going to be a process to convince people to change their vote. And it's going to be ideal if we already have a strong preference among even quite a few Republicans in some states to maybe not support Trump. These Nikki Haley supporters are quite substantial. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who is awful herself, by the way, not as bad as Trump, but quite awful, took nearly 63% of the GOP primary vote on Sunday, March 3rd. That is a lot. That is a lot for a woman to win, especially when it's a Republican against Trump. I know it's DC and all, it shouldn't surprise you, but still quite surprising. History has been made. Compared to the 33% secured by Trump. As a result, the former UN ambassador received the district's 19 delegates. Haley's campaign heralded the historic win in the nation's capital. Quote, "It's not surprising that Republicans closest to Washington dysfunction are rejecting Donald Trump and all his chaos," Haley campaign spokeswoman Olivia Perez-Cubas said in a statement. Haley added in a post on X/Twitter that she is going to, quote, "fight for every inch in the Republican presidential nomination race." Many women have run for president in U.S. history, but Nikki Haley is the first to ever win a Republican presidential primary or caucus. In 1872, women's rights and suffrage advocate Victoria Claflin Woodhull became the first woman to run for U.S. president. Nearly a century later, in 1964, Republican politician Margaret Chase Smith went down in history as the first woman to have her name placed in the nomination for president. She was also the first woman to serve in both houses of the U.S. Congress. Nikki Haley's Washington, D.C. victory also represented her first triumph over Trump in the Republican Party's primary polls. Still, the registered Republican presence in Washington, D.C., a traditionally very Democrat-leaning district, is very small. Just over 2,000 people voted in the GOP primary, in a city that's home to nearly 679,000 residents. Nikki Haley still faces near impossible odds in her quest to win the Republican nomination over Trump for the 2024 presidential election. The 19 delegates from her win in the district is only a small portion of the at least 1,215 delegates needed to clinch the nomination. Washington, D.C. aside, Donald Trump has won every other presidential contest in which he's appeared on the ballot and earned 122 delegates. He's expected to shore up even more support and clinch the GOP nomination soon after Super Tuesday, today. which takes place tomorrow on the 5th of March, or today in real, like, well, when this is being recorded and streamed, it's today. Super Tuesday, traditionally one of the most important dates on the U.S. political calendar, is the day when the largest number of states hold their presidential primaries and caucuses. Isn't it just 3? Like California, Arkansas, and somewhere else. During this Super Tuesday, 874 of the Republican Party's 2,429 delegates, about 36%, will be up for the grabs. Donald Trump appeared nonplussed about Nikki Haley's Washington, D.C. win, obviously. In a post on his social media platform, Truth Social, the former president said he purposefully stayed away from the district, quote, because it is the swamp with very few delegates and no upside. He then called Haley a loser with a record-low performance in virtually every state. I mean, that's pretty copium, to be honest, though, to say right after you lost a state, but okay, man. I mean, you know what I mean. D.C., not a state, I know. I'm very aware that D.C. is not a state. Don't correct me. I really do think this is an important headline to focus on. Obviously, Nikki Haley isn't going to beat Trump, but the fact that Nikki Haley, going against Trump, was able to win a majority of Republican votes, and a fairly strong majority at that. Not even, like, it wasn't a hairline, like, slim win either. It was a pretty strong one. The fact that somewhere in this country, a majority of Republicans were voted for a woman over Trump, a man, and also Trump. That says a lot about the state of the Republican voter base and how they're feeling about Trump. Don't get me wrong, a substantial majority of them are still part of the Trump train. They will fall in line no matter what, and many of them are just downright part of the cult of Trump and would never ever think about even considering not voting for him. But I think it's clear that not every Republican voter is this, like, demonic, anti-democratic, Trump-worshipping, NPC. The fact that they're willing to break their values so much they'd vote for a woman, to such a rate they would make history, and a woman would win you know what I mean, for the very first time in U.S. history among Republicans. That means a lot of these people might be open to voting for Biden in the general. There is a chink right now in the Republican Party's armor. We need to expose it, and we need to use it. Take advantage of it. Oh, come on, chat. You know what you know what I mean, chat. You know what that means. You know it means a weakness in armor. Don't be fucking weird. There is a weakness, I should say, that has been exposed in the Republican Party's armor. Their supporters are not as fanatically in favor of everybody and everything that they stand for as we might have initially thought. I'm surprised by this development. I legitimately am. Chat, hypers if you feel as though this is a surprise to you. I mean, when this goes out as a video, comment down below if this surprised you. I legitimately was surprised that enough Republicans hated Trump enough they majority voted for a woman. A quite awful woman who still represents many of their values, but still, a woman. Like, they would legitimately see a woman lead the country. Think about that for a second. Think about how not that crazy conservative you have to be to not just not vote for Trump, but to be willing to see the country be run by a woman. These are people who can be moved. These are people whose entire motivation is not bigotry. These are people who probably don't believe women shouldn't have the right to vote or whatever. These are probably people who actually believe, like, yeah, homeless veterans shouldn't be homeless. We should be spending on social programs to help them. Like, they actually mean that, though. That's probably the type of Republican that we're looking at here that elected, or not elected, but nominated in this state, Nikki Haley. I think the Democrats aren't good, nor the, like, left in general. are not good at recognizing the right's biggest weaknesses and then honing in on them and focusing on them 100%. I feel like the left is a little bit like the Helldivers 2 player base. Like, if the Helldivers 2 player base just got together and agreed to only play on one single planet on each front, we would complete each planet in a matter of hours and move on to the next one. Matter of hours, move on to the next one. Instead, you've got like tens of thousands of people spread out across every planet available in a sector, or on a front even, while there's like a couple 100,000 people focused on one planet that have gotten with the program. If all those people who haven't gotten with the program got together and just handled it, the Galactic War would be going by a lot faster than it currently is. We'd be seeing that map update way more frequently and be getting a lot more advancements, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, I just feel like it's a little bit like that, you know. If people just recognized that there were a couple main weaknesses that the Republicans and the right have, we could just kind of focus all of our attention on those weaknesses and so much more effectively deal damage to Republican demagogues and politicians politically in this country. Instead, everyone's just like doing their own thing. No one's like focusing on the most important issues. It feels so disjointed. Regardless, all the more reason to get out there to the polls and vote for Biden. Vote blue no matter who. No matter what. That's always what you'll hear from me. Vote blue no matter who.